to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is Buffalo What's Next. I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Dave Debo.
And I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
After May 14th, how can we afford not to talk about race?
About education, about segregation, about humanity.
Since the dawn of this nation, racial violence has existed.
The way we have designed our society has a big hand in what occurred in that Tops Market.
The suburban area, everywhere. We must work and teach our children.
We need to make sure that we put more funding in our programs that help prevent gun violence and more money into art.
If we're going to have some real healing, we've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truths.
And good morning. This is Dave Debo. On the program today, Jay Moran will stop by a little bit later at the Community Music School as they prepare to move into a new facility. We'll look at that. He'll wander around, take you on a trip of sorts later in the program. But first, I'd like to bring in Tamika Murphy and Mia Mootry. They are with the MMB Realty Group. And part of the reason why we thought it would be very interesting to have the two of you in here is you are the first all-female, all-black-owned realty company in the greater Buffalo area. That's kind of neat. Why is that your focus? How did that happen? First of all, thanks for being here, by the way. Welcome.
Thank you for having us, Dave. So myself, Tamika, and Rosalind, we started our company during the pandemic. Crazy enough, we started during the pandemic.
That's Rosalind Burgin, who's not here, but part of the firm number. She's the B in the MMB.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she is. So our reason for starting was so that we could educate our clients on being homeowners. We saw that there was this great divide where there was a larger percentage of non-minority homeowners versus African-American homeowners. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to help increase those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And you did it during the pandemic. That's interesting to me, too.
We did it during the pandemic. It was interesting to us at the time with, all of our fears, and we just decided it was time. We've been educating the communities for a number of years prior, and we just figured, now is the time during the pandemic, and we did it.
I want to pick up on what you said about home ownership. Mm-hmm. The University of Buffalo, in their groundbreaking study, The Harder We Run, crunched some numbers and found that on the east side of Buffalo, and we'll talk in a little bit, by the way, your reach goes all the way from Lockport to Derby, so I don't want to put you exclusively in the east side box. But if we're talking about home ownership, on the east side of Buffalo, only 37% of blacks own their own home. That's a huge number to me.
Yeah, and we agree, and that's what we saw when we were doing our research about starting MMB Realty Group. We wanted to increase those numbers, and we found the way to do that is to educate, to do home ownership seminars. We do those twice a year. We just had one in September, and we plan to do another one in February of 2023.
And you contend that anyone who rents can buy a home.
Oh, for sure.
Really?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Right now, we're looking at average rent prices about $1,200 right now, compared to a few years ago where the average rent price in Buffalo was probably about $600.
Half that amount, correct.
Wow. So mortgages can be less than a payment to a landlord.
Oh, for sure. Myself, Tamika, and Roz have helped clients go from paying $1,200, $1,300 a month for rent to having a mortgage that's $700 or $800.
Talk about the availability of property, though. There's probably a lot of vacant houses on the east side, vacant lots, certainly. Is there an availability of houses to buy, or are they pretty much all, again, in the hands of the landlord, he asks rhetorically?
So I say that you have to have HGTV eyes. So when you're watching HGTV, you want this grandiose house. You want a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, right? So you don't start out with that. You kind of work toward that. So
I don't want the 4 bedrooms, but it's got to have the jacuzzi on the back.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, everyone wants the 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, but we try to educate our clients is that, first you want to be a homeowner and then you want to work toward the 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, right? Yeah. That first house doesn't have to be your forever home.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you have to start somewhere before you take off running. And like Mia said, you have your first home, sometimes your second and third before you reach your forever home, because it's all a work in progress. And that's what we try to get our clients to understand, that, you may not get this grand home, but you have something that you can build equity into and work towards getting that forever home.
And that's just it. If you're owning it, the equity is in your pocket, not in a landlord's pocket.
Correct.
You can build equity that way.
Correct.
Anyone who rents can own a home, even if they have horrible, awful credit?
Horrible, awful credit. And horrible, awful credit it's relative, right? So my 600 credit score is not equal to your 600 credit score, Dave. It just depends on...
Explain that. I thought numbers were numbers.
Numbers are numbers, but numbers can mean different things. So
how I got my 600 is different than how you got your 600?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So my 600 may not come, from not paying bills on time, whereas yours may be, you're delinquent on quite a few bills. Mine may be I just don't have enough credit, or I haven't had a credit card or any bills in my name.
Okay.
So that's how the banks look at it, and that's how we look at it to, make that comparison.
How do you help a prospective homeowner transcend that, though? I walk in the door with a lousy credit score. What happens next? Take me through the process.
So we sit down and we talk to each one of our buyers to get an understanding as to where they are with their credit score, with their finances. And then because we've been doing this for quite a long time, we can direct them to different programs, whether or not they need to have closing cost assistance or whether or not they need to have credit repair. There's a lot of different programs that are out there that can assist depending on where they are in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Is there right now a glut of homes? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Talk about what you're seeing in that regard.
I'm seeing a real estate market.
Okay.
I'm seeing a real estate market, and what I mean by that is, sometimes you hear people saying, "Oh, it's a seller's market. The houses are going for, an astronomical amount," and then, when they don't go that far, then it's a buyer's market. There's a house out there for any and everyone that wants to purchase.
It depends again on whether they've got the
depends.
HGTV.
Absolutely,
Okay.
It depends.
All right. Mia Mootry is here, and Tamika Murphy there with the MMB Realty Group. We're talking about real estate trends. And again, I don't want to put anyone in the box of the East Side, because you said earlier you cover all the way from Lockport to Derby. But I think within the confines of this program, we've sort of established the precedent that we're looking at some of the issues that haven't been addressed before the top shooting that now have bubbled to the surface. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the East Side in particular and the challenges that they're facing right now, either from a real estate perspective or just more broadly.
So for the East Side of Buffalo, there's definitely they've been left behind, right? As far as real estate, just as far as jobs, as far as education. But what we're seeing going forward is that ourself, MMB Realty Group, along with the City of Buffalo, we've partnered together to do some single-family houses, infill projects to fill in those vacant lots on the east side of Buffalo.
Explain, what is an infill project? What does that look like?
So right now, the lot could be vacant, or there could be a dilapidated house on the land. What the City of Buffalo is doing is they're partnering together with local banks, and they are building new single-family homes.
On vacant lots?
On those vacant lots.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're seeing that in several areas throughout the east side of Buffalo.
Will it ever reach a point where the available stock changes? Do landlords hold on to property and always be rental property?
So there's always going to be that supply and demand, right, that you see. So when the supply is low, prices are high. When the supply is high, then prices will be low. Mm-hmm. So that's just a economics part of it. I see that there's always going to be the need for people to own homes in the city of Buffalo.
Is there a stigma, and I don't want to say even on the east side, but in the city, if I'm a suburban guy looking for a starter home, I'm going to get more bang for my buck if I look at the city. but I also wonder if there isn't an attitudinal issue that has to be overcome there. I'm not going to live in the city, that kind of thing. Talk about that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tamika.
I was going to say there is that stigma, because when you're looking at the East Side, you have so many people that has grown up in the East Side, and as we see, there's a lot of trauma in the East Side, trauma filled on different areas of, the East Side. So as a lot of people start to grow up, their first instinct is to move out into the suburbs.
Sure.
So when we have housing prices that most people aren't used to seeing on the East Side, when houses in certain areas are going for $150,000 to $200,000, we have potential home owners, home buyers that wouldn't necessarily want to live in the areas that they grew up in,
right,
because they've seen so much and they've seen what has happened to the area, but they're not looking to see what is happening into
Right,
the
what it
area,
could be.
what it could be.
Does that then limit your pool of potential buyers if people are not necessarily, with a big asterisk, necessarily willing to move into the city? Does that mean your pool are those people that already live on the East Side, that already talk about the amazing sense of community there, that there's a vibrancy and something they want to be a part of on the East Side?
So for me, I lived in the suburbs until just a few years ago. And because of everything that's happening within the city of Buffalo, I wanted to come back and be a part of the city of Buffalo. So I'm seeing that a lot of millennials are feeling the same way. Like we talked, Dave, earlier, how you moved away and you came back. There's a lot of people that I went to school with who moved away, and now they're coming back because there's so much happening in the city of Buffalo. And whether or not they move on the East Side or whether or not they move to North Buffalo or South Buffalo, they're starting to see the value, because you can go to other places where rent could be $2,000 a month, right?
Oh, heck yeah. And any of the lofts downtown, you're approaching that benchmark.
Right. But when you come back to the city of Buffalo, you can still take that $2,000 a month that you were spending in D.C. or that you were spending in Virginia, and you can purchase a house for your family that you can begin to build generational wealth.
Yeah.
Do you end up having to market against the stigma, though? The story you just told, you used to live in the suburbs, wanted to move into the city. How often do you have to explain to people that has value?
Every day.
Really?
Every day. Every day is a conversation of what's happening in Buffalo. And it takes us, myself, Mia, Rosalind, and all of our agents at MMB to do that research, because we're out here in different communities, so we see the difference. We hear people talking. We sit in community meetings, so we see what's happening and we see the value. So for those of our clients that's not necessarily out there at these community events and meetings, they don't necessarily know what's taking place or what's about to happen. So again, it's our job to not only sell homes, but to educate
sell the community.
Exactly.
How do you do that? What do you say?
Mia will explain it best, and I always say she's the expert on her wording with that.
I don't know if I'm the expert, but I just put it from the perspective of the value, right? You have to see value in the community that you're purchasing in. So I'm not going to necessarily steer a person to the East Side or the North Side of Buffalo. I'm just going to show them the value in each one of them, right? And so, like we said earlier, there's a house for everyone.
Yeah.
So do you see the value in living on the East Side of Buffalo? Do you see the value in living on the North Side of Buffalo? How far are your dollars going to go in each one of these areas? And then you make the determination on where you live.
And then, of course, numbers matter. So we show them the numbers.
Yeah. I grew up a suburban kid, but my family has roots in the Clinton-Babcock area. And on the most recent sale, my grandfather's house, I think, went for $40,000. There's no way I could get a house for $40,000 right now in some of the suburban areas. But on that street, it's a possibility.
I don't know about that.
No?
$40,000 sounds really low.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Right. There was a home just the other day that was up on the market for $80,000 that had no walls.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
So gone are the days of $40,000 houses.
This was a sale, I think, about 5 years ago that I recall.
Yeah. 5 years ago. When we're looking at it now, I wish I had purchased a house for $40,000 5 years ago.
Because now you'd be making
now
a
I'm kicking myself, right?
Yeah.
But no, you're not seeing $40,000 houses, but you are seeing probably $80,000 to $100,000 houses, depending on what area of the city you're purchasing in.
Yeah.
I have to be blunt, and I don't do this to stereotype, and I don't do this to be mean, but I think it's an important part of the conversation. You said the sales pitch involves prices. At some point, though, do you have to deal with race? Do you have to deal with stereotypes? Oh, I don't want to live in the city, I'll get shot. That kind of stuff. Does it come up?
So as a real estate agent, those things do come up, but it's not something that I necessarily will say live in this neighborhood or don't live in this neighborhood because of the fear of being shot. You have to make that determination. You as the buyer have to determine.
But if I'm generally averse to the city, and you've just convinced me that the numbers work better for me if I buy a home somewhere in the city, how do you overcome other things that aren't part of the financial argument?
Just having a conversation, taking that person through the neighborhood so that they can see what it's like. And I always suggest to a person to go in at different times of the day, right? What kind of traffic is there at 8 o'clock in the morning versus when everyone is off from work?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So ultimately,
see the neighborhood at ground level.
Yeah.
And like Mia said, 3 times, and morning, afternoon, and at night. Because, your morning may be different than that nightlife in the summertime or, the afternoon on a Saturday. If you're looking for a kid environment, kids will be out playing in the middle of the summer in the morning or the afternoon. So I 100% agree with that 3 times.
All right. What about education? I think people probably look at housing through the lens of the school system. If I'm moving to Alma, East Aurora, Darien, the first thing I'm going to do is probably go to that Business First book and find out how good the schools are.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, when buyers come to us, they know what they've already done their research on what school district they would like to be in. So that isn't really a huge conversation that we have with a lot of buyers because they're familiar with the school districts before, and they've already done that research.
And it's not really a variable that you can change. You can address you can overcome their objections. You can do your sale based on numbers and neighborhoods, but that's one that's already on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I myself grew up in the city of Buffalo. I went to Hutch Tech High School. There are good schools in the city of Buffalo. And I feel like it's about parent involvement. How much involvement do you have as the parent is going to dictate what your child gets out of it. So a city school versus a suburban school is all about what you put into it.
Yeah. I think, though, too, it goes kind of to our earlier conversation. There are stereotypes. Hutch Tech is great. City Honors is great. But the narrative has become, oh, God, Buffalo Public Schools? Are you kidding?
Yeah, and that's coming from the people who aren't necessarily involved in the city of Buffalo schools. There are some good schools, just like there's some bad schools. But again, I think it goes back to that parent involvement and being there, seeing it from a day-to-day basis.
That's Mia Mootry. She's here with Tamika Murphy. They're both part of MMB Realty Group, a women-owned, person of color realty firm in Buffalo. As far as we know, the only one that can check off both of those boxes. Interesting conversation to come. We'll be back right after this. When we return, I want to look at specific numbers, the housing market, some of the trends, some of the things you're seeing here that sort of define Buffalo. We'll do that when we return. This is Buffalo What's Next on WBFO.
Watch the WNED PBS original production, Canadian Rockies by Rail.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard the Rocky Mountaineer.
See that? We like to talk about trying to create life-changing experiences.
Canadian Rockies by Rail, now streaming on YouTube and the PBS Video app.
This is WBFO's Buffalo's What's Next program. Good morning, I'm Dave Debo. We're talking with 2 women here from MMB Realty Group. To the best of our knowledge, they're the first all-female, all-black-owned realty company in the Buffalo area. Mia Mootry is here. Tamika Murphy is here. And let's get into the market. Let's get into some of the numbers. Is there a trend that defines Western New York real estate right now? Or again, is it more of a neighborhood by neighborhood, region by region kind of thing? Overall, is there something that's driving your business or not driving it, if you see what I'm saying? Are interest rates a factor? Is it perhaps the availability of homes? What's trend number one, regardless of what neighborhood I'm talking about?
So earlier we talked about value, people seeing value in the neighborhoods. So the one trend that we're seeing is a lot of investors from other areas are purchasing investment property within the city of Buffalo. So they're seeing value where we don't necessarily see it. I'm seeing a lot of people coming from New York City where the rents are $3,000-$4,000 a month for like a little Cracker Jack box house, and now they're able to purchase these $80,000 or $100,000 houses that we talked about earlier. So they're able to see value in our neighborhoods where we didn't necessarily see them before. And when I say our, I mean the city of Buffalo is our.
Sure.
Western New York, yeah.
Yeah, where we were like, oh, no, we don't want to live on the east side of Buffalo, or we don't want to live on the west side of Buffalo. Like, those houses are only $40,000. But now those $40,000 houses are now $80,000 houses.
Or more.
Or more. Yeah, I mean, you could see $200,000 houses now. But, again, it goes back to that value, being able to see value in a particular neighborhood. So someone from the outside that's paying $3,000 a month can come in and have a whole entire house for their family, along with a backyard and a fence. And we're talking about the HGTV eyes, right?
Yeah,
so they're excited because now they went from this apartment to having
a single
family home with a fence and a backyard for their entire family.
A place for the dog and the kids. Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
How long do houses stay on the market locally? I've seen articles that talk about some things being sold sight unseen. People will just see a listing and say, I want that, here's my offer, before they even set foot in the house.
Well, I think that was more so pandemic and the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay, that does make sense.
And we had a lot of people wanting to purchase homes because of, again, the interest rates were, at a record low. We were in, 2% to sometimes 3%. So that happened more so during the pandemic and the pandemic, where you had hundreds of people purchasing homes sight unseen without home inspections and, just going in. Once the pandemic, and I'm not going to say it ended because we're technically still there, that kind of quieted it down a little,
Is there even an average time on market locally?
There is. So those houses that are completely updated, we're still seeing multiple offers on those houses. Those houses are probably staying on the market for about a week.
And that's short.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, about a week. And then the houses that need a little bit more work, those are probably staying on for 2 to 3 weeks. They're still selling. They're just not selling as quickly as they were, say, 2 to 3 months ago when interest rates were at a record low.
Did the pandemic depress sales, or again, was it that sight unseen, quick, darn, I want to get it now mentality?
I feel like the pandemic just kind of brought out, people are sick of sitting in their dining room or sick of staring at those four walls, and now they're realizing that their house is a lot smaller than they thought. So that pent up, I want to go and purchase something. Yeah, okay. I now need to have an office to work in because I'm stuck in the house. So, and then a lot of people moved either to the area or out of the area because now you can work remotely.
You've mentioned that you look at a lot of different areas. What's hot right now? What is the market, the neighborhood, the town that is seeing the most growth, the hot market right now?
So I'm seeing a lot of people moving from the suburbs into the city of Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people are selling their suburban houses to move to the city of Buffalo. Whether or not it be the east side, west side, north side, south side, they're moving to the city.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think the pandemic kind of hyped that too.
More exercise.
They want
just something walkable.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods are important to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Walkable, livable neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Granted, there are some that want the big spread with the farm, perhaps.
Right.
But I think that sense of community with a sidewalk up front is a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Let's talk about interest rates. Where are they going? What are you seeing?
I can't tell you where they're going.
Oh, come on. Give me Why not?
Well, we don't know. Interest rates change daily. And, that's not really an area of our expertise. We kind of leave that up to the
mortgage broker.
the mortgage brokers, the loan officers. So those change daily. But right now we're at a 6% interest rate. So we've been there for about a month or two now. So,
Does it drive the calculations that potential buyers make, though? Obviously, if they have budgeted for this particular home at a certain amount per month, the interest rate's going to screw that and change that.
Yeah. So I will say when those interest rates changed, we had a number of buyers who were in the process of searching for a home. However, when those rates changed in that one day, it kind of eliminated a lot of those buyers out of the market and priced them out because of the budgets of where they were.
This might be a little far afield because obviously you folks are into home ownership and selling homes. But something that's always sort of made me question things, it seems as if there are a lot of developers that are building a lot of apartments in and around downtown Buffalo, more than I think I would imagine there is a market for. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just a matter of, hey, if I can build the great shiny apartment over here, I don't care whether there's a market. I'm just stealing from that guy over there who doesn't have the great shiny one. Mm-hmm. Is it developer against developer, or do you really see a market for downtown living right now?
Oh, there's definitely a need for downtown living. Like you said, people want that walkable community, right? Close to everything that you like to do or want to do. So the closer you are to the water,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
The better people feel like things are going to be.
Even with the amount of new space that's being developed, though, it seems like every time you open the paper, there's some new building that is now all apartments.
But think about for so long in the city of Buffalo, the housing stock was older. Mm-hmm. Like we're looking at houses that were built in 1918, 1930. There were probably about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there was that new development downtown, right? Mm-hmm. So we're saying newer houses are 1995 and
right.
And, younger, right?
Mm-hmm. 94 is when they started.
Yeah. So you're starting to see more development happening and people who are coming in from other cities, like they've moved away and come back. So they're used to seeing new shiny things with lots of amenities, whereas some of the Buffalo apartments didn't necessarily have that.
Yeah. So we're update is what we say in real estate. They're updating Buffalo.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
Does that rental market, that demand for downtown living, in some way influence or change the seller's market? How are those two interrelated?
So if you're able to afford that shiny new rental property that's $1,700 or $1,800 a month, right? And you pay for that $1,700 or $1,800 a month.
It gives you a heck of a selling pitch when you can say,
yes, you were able to afford that apartment, right? So there's no reason why you can't afford to purchase a home and have the white picket fence and the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house for less money. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be less money.
Right.
And you talked about, we talked about the interest rates being at 6%. That's still relative to what's happening out in the market. When I bought my first house, probably 30 years, and I'm probably dating myself, but 30 years ago, the interest rates were closer to 7 or 8% at that time. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy to get into a house, even with the interest rates being as high as they are, because things are relative. So are you going to wait to purchase a house because the interest rates are going up, but your landlord is still going up on your rent? you can definitely afford to purchase a house if you can afford to rent.
So what I say too, and I tell my buyers, is that rent is 100%, whereas purchasing a home is a 6% interest rate. Rent is at that 100%
sure.
interest
I
rate.
see it. Yep.
You know, so it just depends on how you look at the numbers.
Is this the kind of stuff you go through? You said you do homeowner education.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through one of those classes. What does that consist of?
So it's like I get excited talking about our seminar. So it's almost like going to Walmart where everything is in one place. Mm-hmm. So like how we talked about someone's credit score may be lower than another person. Someone may not have the financing to be able to purchase the house. Mm-hmm. So we have someone that's there that's going to help you with closing cost assistance, someone that's going to help you with repairing your credit, someone that's going to a bank that's there that's going to be able to provide you with the pre-qualification to be able to purchase the house.
Yeah. And a number of banks, not just one. We like to give our potential clients or home buyers, future home buyers, options. So our last seminar that we had about 8 different banks there because everyone was offering something different as far as closing costs and who can work with those that have lower credit scores compared to those who, may want the higher credit scores, or, there's a program out there that helps with credit, but they have a low interest rate, which is NACA. We also have home inspectors. We have attorneys to go over the legal aspects. We have insurance agencies. So when you're coming into one of our seminars, you have that, like Mia said, that one-stop shop where everything is in that one room. And, we have agents there. We're there to answer any questions that they may have to move forward. So it's a process from A to Z when coming to our seminars.
How is demand for the seminars? Do you have to do a lot of outreach to get people to realize that this is even something that could work for them?
When we started about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, I get excited now. So our very first seminar, it was definitely hard to get, people out. In our very first seminar, we had between 10 to 12 people. Our second seminar, it grew a little. We had 60 people. And then after maybe about 4 or 5 years, 6 years, we've done those seminars. So our last few seminars, we've had over 200 people register, and maybe about 160, 170 actually come to attend the seminars.
Mia, you've mentioned before the program that you do a lot of work in Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. Contrast the two cities, Buffalo and Niagara Falls. What's going on in each one right now, real estate-wise?
So when I compare Niagara Falls and the city of Buffalo, Niagara Falls to me is one of those areas that's up and coming, where the city of Buffalo has already come up, per se, right? Niagara Falls has that older housing stock, but the houses have good bones. And Tamika hates when I say good bones, but a house that has good bones has, like the newer roof or the newer furnace,
right?
Great foundation.
An old house, but the essentials are there.
Right.
Strong foundation.
And you can build that house up into what you want it to be, right? So it just may need some cosmetic work, but the bones of the house are good, so that it's not something that's going to be a money pit to you.
And I think the stereotype is that Niagara Falls is still a lot more economically depressed than Buffalo. But that could very well be opportunity. A house would be cheaper there, no?
For sure. And just like with any city, there's good areas and not so good areas. I've had quite a few clients purchase in Niagara Falls, and they're happy. They're happy. Like they're still calling us to talk about how excited they were to move to Niagara Falls. And we as Buffalonians think, Niagara Falls is so far because it's a 30-minute drive. But when you live somewhere else, you could be in traffic for 30 minutes, right? Whereas Buffalo, traffic is probably 10 minutes and we're still upset.
Okay. The reason I had you both here, obviously, is to talk about real estate. But I think the premise of this program also is to look at some of the needs and some of the issues on the east side, especially after the Tops shooting. Each in turn, Tamika, we'll start with you. How has the Tops shooting changed things, either in a general sense or within the confines of the realty discussion we've been having?
So I do see our communities coming together more on the east side, especially in the area of where the Jefferson, shooting has been. I am finding more people that's looking to open more businesses in that area, and they're not where we were 4 or 5 years ago, where there was a lot of people who necessarily didn't want to live in that area. They're now looking to purchase more so in that area to be able to build communities and build houses and, home ownership in that area. So the top shooting, as tragic as it was, I do see, the city of good neighbors coming together to build it back up bigger and stronger.
Maybe it's just my own personal white ignorance, but in the discussions I've had with people about the shooting, about the east side, I was not aware of the strong pre-existing sense of community. That was there. I think now it's just getting a little more attention, no?
Yeah, it was there for the people that frequent that community and that lived in that community. Once this tragic thing happened, then you have, many coming to help out, and many, that are now aware of what we've known for so long. Mm-hmm. And, their presence are a big help. But I will say those that lived in that community, they've always known how strong that community has been and, will continue to be, even when, these other companies or, these other communities leave out. They will continue to be that strong community.
Mia, how about you? Same question. What has changed?
For me, myself and Tamika, we actually went to Tops just the other day. Mm-hmm. And it was very somber. And what's changed is that there's a lot of companies that are pouring money into the Jefferson Avenue area. Mm-hmm. But my hope is that that's long lasting, that it's not something that just kind of is a fleeting moment. There's a need. We talked about education. There's a need to educate our children, educate our community, and there has to be that financial aspect that's behind the Hamlin Park, Jefferson Avenue area. There has to be, or else, everything else doesn't matter.
Do either of you see, and I've only got about a minute left here, do either of you see the potential for more integration? How do you get someone from the suburbs to consider moving into the east side?
I think their mind is already made up by the time they've reached out to us about moving from the suburbs. That's a big jump. So when you have a lot of people that are in the suburbs and they've already done their research on moving to the east side of Buffalo, they've already visited certain communities and certain areas on the east side of Buffalo. So they know which areas they would like to. So it's not a long, drawn-out conversation for us.
And final question, are either of you optimistic in a general sense?
I am.
Absolutely.
I am, absolutely. After the top shooting, just to see everyone come together, that made me feel good.
All right. Mia Mootry and Tamika Murphy, both with MMB Realty Group. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Great discussion. This is Buffalo What's Next on WBFO.
This is Buffalo What's Next, where we have conversations with the community about moving forward. To have your voice heard, press the Talk to Us button on the WBFO app, and we'll work to get your questions and comments on the air. Join us on Twitter @WBFO or email us at news@WBFO.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
On this segment of Buffalo What's Next, we explore the role institutions play in transforming a community. Specifically, in this case, an arts institution, Community Music School, and its impact on Buffalo's East Side. Nearly a century old, Community Music School stood as an Elmwood Avenue fixture for many of those years. Now, you'll find it on East Delavan, around the corner, about 1 mile from the Jefferson Avenue Tops. School administrators say the move has been positive to this point, and that's certainly the opinion of Cheryl Jordan, a retired teacher who is now following a lifelong dream of learning to play the violin.
I felt like it was out of my reach. that I wasn't able to really be a part of the community school. It just, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I would fit in. I felt like it was for a different population. That was just my thinking. So I started looking around for...
But, that's interesting you should say that, because earlier one of my conversations with someone here, they said, sometimes the music and the music school can come off as being elitist. Is that kind of what you thought? Yes.
Thank you for saying it that way, because I didn't quite know how to word it. Yeah, I did have that feeling. And you want to fit in on some levels. I think somebody had recommended, I was talking to my girlfriend, and she knows Phil, and she said, why don't you try the community school? And I said, community school. So I did, and when I called, oh my God, the warmth, the friendliness, the affordability, I was like, okay, I'm in. Okay,
let's try it one more time.
Yeah. In its mission statement, Community Music School says it's committed to providing musical public service programs to Western New York and quality music instruction for individuals of all ages and levels of ability, regardless of age, aspirations, or financial resources. Marketing coordinator Brittany Upshaw took us on a tour as we found out more.
Here's our children's room, so we do the children's classes in here. So we have classes for basically from newborns to adults. So we have music classes for babies that they do with their parents. Then once they get about 3 or so, they can do music on my own. And they do, it's basically kind of like the same kind of class. They learn rhythm, things like that you need to know to when you want to go into an instrument or singing. And they do those classes in here.
During our tour, we met with staff and adult students who shared their experiences and their talents. Mike Klein says he began taking voice lessons at CMS after he turned 60, with impressive results. He's been with the school for 4 years now and has observed the change since the school moved from Elmwood to the east side.
I have noticed when we do have recitals, there is a more diverse population than what was at our other recitals.
Okay.
So I think the community is supporting this.
From Hall of Fame fiddler Phil Banaszak to Carol McLaughlin, who played with Dizzy Gillespie, the school features its own diverse faculty. Hassan Al-Mufti teaches the piano, which he learned to play as a young boy in Baghdad. The school was established in the late 60s by musicians from the Soviet Union.
The classes every day from 12 at noon till 4 o'clock. From 8 in the morning till 12 is academic, regular school. Then from 12 to 4 o'clock is music training, whether piano or choir or theory of music, whatever. Every day. Age of 6 all the way till you graduate from high school. And then there's a contract after that. After you graduate from high school, they take you to Moscow to continue your education there, music education. Yeah, it was really one of a kind.
The Iran-Iraq War and other international developments veered Hassan Al-Mufti off course. He spent 6 years in Jordan. In 2001, he came to the United States as a refugee and ended up in Buffalo teaching at the Community Music School. That's quite a journey
It is,
from
yeah.
your origins. Tell me, I'm so curious about, because now you have a lot of experience here, you've had a lot of students. What about since moving over here onto Delavan Avenue? What is it? Have you seen a difference in your students or different?
A huge difference. It's because this building was, accommodate all our needs. They built it in a way, of course it was already existed, but the rooms, the studios, is all, meets our needs.
Can you teach anybody to play the piano?
Yes. I mean, the difference between us and, let's say, Juilliard, for instance, or Eastman, or anywhere, we have the same standards. We have a curriculum. but we accept everyone. The art of teaching is how to get the information to the students in a certain amount of time. Of course, if it's extremely gifted and especially talented, they will get it right away. Others, it takes them time. So it's our job to understand how their brain function, how they understand things. And little by little, make them play.
Is it rewarding?
Yes. Especially when you see, especially with adults, when they come to me and they say, I always wanted to play piano, but I couldn't afford it, or I didn't have the time. And is it too late for me? No, the answer is no, it's not too late. And I can make them play in 10 minutes.
To make the school affordable to all income levels and to offer scholarships, the Community Music School is holding a fundraiser this Friday. Again, Brittany Upshaw. So tell me about this event.
Yeah, so there are two international classical artists. So Andrea Ciccolisi and Alexander Malafiev. They're both coming to do a duo concert. Alexander is very, very well established in classical music. He's done many, many events all over the world and at so many different orchestras. He was actually at the Philharmonic last year as well. So he's coming along with his friend that's up-and-coming violinist. He's just starting to do his world tours around, so they're both coming and doing a tour and donating all the proceeds to us. So, wow. Yeah, the fundraiser is going towards helping our programming, helping keep funding students, because I just told you we're a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. We help students who maybe can't afford music lessons. We discount them so that they can be able to afford them income.
Do a lot of people take advantage of that?
Yes, we have so many financial aid students.
Is that right?
So many, yes.
Right.
And now that we're moving into, a neighborhood like, the neighborhood we're in, it's really nice to see all people from the community take advantage of those kind of things too.
And you are seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of people are taking advantage of financial aid. So the more people that we want to come, we want to have more funds so that everyone who wants to learn about music can.
Hassan El-Mufti stresses the opportunity offered by the Friday fundraising concert.
Would expect excellence performance. And this is first time for Alexander Malafiev, which he is a superstar, and a prodigy like Andrea Ciccolisi join forces in one concert. First time ever. It's going to be here in Buffalo and under the patronage of Community Music School.
Right here. So we're moving on down, sorry.
That's
Carlina
fine.
Williams, she toured with Pink Floyd on the Dark Side of the Moon album in 1975 from Buffalo.
Operations Director Paul Wara told the stories behind some of the portraits hanging at the Community Music School, featuring students and faculty who've made a lasting impact. The most recent portrait is of Sarah Rogers, the faculty member who lost her life earlier this year when she was struck by a vehicle while riding her bike on South Park Avenue.
And do it again. Watch the tuner and hit every note dead on. You'll see.
Phil Banaszak is providing a fiddle lesson to Chris Murakowski, one of the many adult students who were gracious enough to share their stories.
My name is Ari Daniels.
How long have you been a student here, Ari?
4 weeks.
So you are a new student?
Yes. I live on the west side.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. What made you decide to do this?
I've done music for a lot of my life. And I'll hear things like, in my head, but you can't really play all of them like on a flute, so piano, I thought might be nice to take up so I can kind of start creating some of the things that I'm experiencing and to be able to share them. I figure you're never too old to learn something new. So I turned 30 and was like, all right, well, what's new for me to get into? And that's what led me here.
And it's interesting how you mentioned your musical ideas. And is the piano helping you bring that forward? Absolutely. Again, like with flute, you can only play the melody,
But with piano, you can play the melody and the harmonies and just being able to kind of like tinker around and kind of like hear things, Yeah, it's really cool.
You've only been at it for 4 weeks, so this might be the wrong question to ask, but do you have a hero?
Honestly, Stevie Wonder has been like a hero of mine for as long as I can remember. And I was at home yesterday before my lesson and was like listening to him playing, and it just kind of gave a whole new context to, you know, his work. So kind of just was like, yeah, this is great. I'm so happy I'm doing this, you know.
That was also the case for Stacy Snyder. She's been studying at Community Music School for a few years in both voice and the piano.
You know, this isn't to say I'm going to, you know, show up on Shay's stage anytime soon or anything like that.
But could you see yourself at a piano lounge or something like that playing?
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, you know, hope springs eternal.
You're not shaking your head. Hope springs eternal. Very nice. Very nice. So you've been at with the school then for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you have lived through the transition from Elmwood Avenue over here to Delavan.
Yep.
What has that been like?
I loved the building on Elmwood. I mean, it's just a gorgeous building and, you know, the character and history of it. But this new place is so much more open, physically open in that, you know, it's not an old Victorian home and it's more accessible for people. I just think it just feels like it kind of maybe like breathed a little new life into the school.
That's interesting because just talking to some of the folks here, they are seeing people from this part of the city, this part of the community, coming in here. Obviously, you're doing your own lessons with your teachers, but I mean, have you kind of come across that yourself yet?
Oh, absolutely. In you know, just being here. And in addition to lessons, I'm also cataloging their music collection because I'm a librarian in my real life. So I'm cataloging the collection. So I'm here more than just for my lessons. And so just being here, you know, walking through the lobby and being upstairs and stuff, I see people coming for lessons. And I do feel like I'm seeing a different demographic than on Elmwood.
And what do you think that could mean for the community?
Oh, music education is amazing, and studies have shown that playing music can enhance so many other parts of your life, like mathematics, for example, and learning to read music is, this is just my feeling of it, is a little bit like learning another language, and so I don't see anything bad coming from being exposed to music in any way.
Cheryl Jordan shares that view. The first-year violin student under Phil Banaszak has the big dream of one day playing with the BPO.
It's so important. It is so important because there are so many people of color that are so talented, and I think they really would like to be engaged in a building like this, but sometimes I think they feel like it's not affordable. But they will work with you. They will work with you here in this building if you feel like you need help, because it's a non-for-profit organization, and so people need to know that you can follow your dream and you can take lessons. So I really want to get it out there, but I'm so proud of myself and I never knew that there were other people of color that played the violin. But Phil started telling me about that, there were, and then I did my research, and I was like, whoa, there are a lot of people that look like me that play the violin.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. You know what? There's this one gentleman, and I cannot remember his name, but he plays classical, but he also plays hip-hop. He plays rap music. You should see this. Ooh, this guy.
He plays hip-hop on a violin.
Yes, you can do so much with that. That's why I'm so intrigued by the violin. 4 strings, and just with the manipulation of your fingers going up and down that string, you can make all kinds of notes and melodies.
When we met, Cheryl Jordan said she had a lot to say. She didn't disappoint. A resident of the William Jefferson neighborhood, she admits she's not comfortable visiting the Jefferson Avenue tops, where 10 black people were killed on May 14th. She says that's the view of many of her friends and neighbors. Trust needs to be restored. Do you find any healing in playing your music and practicing your music? Does it help?
Practicing my music is comforting. As far as healing the issues of racism or systemic racism, it's going to take more than playing the violin. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? The door is opening so maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but the door is opening a little bit with feeling that, because I know that all people are not like that, but it does help to know that I could come here with a diverse population, and I am, and this is to me kind of stinky to say or horrible to say that I'm accepted. Why do I have to even use those words? That I'm accepted and I matter. But that's the arena that we're struggling in, you know, to sometimes be accepted. And I don't like that. And I certainly don't like that word tolerate. Don't ever talk to me about tolerance. I hate that word tolerance. As if, you know, I'm some kind of creature that, you know, you have to readjust your mind so that you can tolerate me. What about me tolerating you? It goes both ways. It goes both ways. So, but my studying and playing my violin, it is healing for me, and it is beautiful for me, but it's something else. It's something else, yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe when you're on that stage at the BPO,
Ooh.
maybe that'll be different then.
I'll say, yeah, see? See? Yeah, that'll yeah, right. You didn't think it, did you? You didn't think that, We know how to do this too. So, yeah, that's where there you go. So now I'm even more motivated. I got this. All right. And I'll be sure to send you an invitation. Remember when?
I will. Cheryl, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun talking to you.
And a special thanks to the Community Music School for opening its doors to Buffalo What's Next. We'll finish with these words, also from their mission statement. The professional faculty and administrative staff, together with the volunteers, believe that anyone who has genuine interest in music can benefit from study and deserves the opportunity to pursue it. That pursuit, now for the Community Music School heading toward its 100th year, is taking place on Buffalo's East Side. This is Buffalo What's Next on WBFO. And a special thanks to the Community Music School for appearing with us and allowing us into their facility on East Delavan. Also earlier, Dave Debo talking with Mia Mootry and Tamika Collins of the MMB Realty Group. This is Buffalo What's Next. We're back with you again tomorrow at 10 with our Producer's Picks show. And this is member-supported WBFO and WBFO HD1 Buffalo, WOLN Olean, and WUBJ Jamestown.